They can clean up their own Thanksgiving this year. I'm taking 3 days off for myself. Over 10 years of marriage, I've lived in the kitchen's shadow, giving up the stage and the income to my husband. I focused on our child, on keeping this home together. 12 straight hours of cooking, alone. Not a single thank you. And then last night, like a cold blade, he bought his mother a house, $850,000. Didn't ask me a single question. In the family photo hanging in the dining room, I'm nothing but a blur. The woman holding a tray, the servant, the freeloader. I stood in the kitchen, sweat running down my back. The smell of roasted turkey thick in the air. On the marble counter, a 20-pound turkey, 5 trays of mashed potatoes, 3 kinds of salad, and 7 desserts I'd been making since 5 in the morning. 40 guests laughed and drank in the living room, but not one of them stepped in to ask if I was tired. Emma, my husband's voice, Marcus Morrison, boomed from the living room. Where's the champagne? Mr. Lewis is waiting. I wiped my hands on my stained apron and opened the fridge for the $400 bottle of Moet, one of the bottles Marcus kept hidden for special occasions. In 12 years, he'd never let me have a single sip. As I stepped into the living room, I heard Marcus laugh. You know, guys, I'm lucky. My wife was born to serve. Emma can cook for 100 people and never complain. Robert, one of his friends, burst out laughing. You're blessed, Marcus. My wife can't even make a decent sandwich. That's right, my mother-in-law, Maggie Morrison said proudly from her armchair. Emma understands a woman's duty. Serving her family is the highest honor. As I set the champagne down, I noticed a pink envelope sticking out of Marcus's suit pocket. Handwriting, unmistakably feminine. Back in the kitchen, I ladled pumpkin soup into 15 porcelain bowls, decorating each one carefully. My hands trembled. From exhaustion, loneliness, or from the weight of 12 years spent as an invisible woman at my own dinner party? My name is Emma Chen Morrison, 38 years old, once a financial analyst at JP Morgan in New York. 12 years ago, at 26, I met Marcus Morrison, 32, ambitious, charming, building a health tech company called Morrison Healthcare Solutions. You'll never have to worry about money, Marcus promised when he proposed. I'll earn enough for both of us. You just focus on the family. I believed him, especially when he handed me a prenuptial agreement, calling it a formality to protect us both. Too young, too naive, I didn't see the trap. If the marriage ended before 15 years and I violated marital duties, I'd get only $100,000, no alimony, no support. The early years were peaceful. Marcus built his company, I built our home. At 29, I gave birth to Lily, our beautiful daughter, with my eyes and his smile. But slowly, you don't need to work became you're not allowed to work. Marcus controlled every dollar, and I had an allowance like a child. Anything over $200 required permission. My career faded, my friends disappeared. I was just Marcus's wife and Lily's mother. Life revolved entirely around his needs, his family, his clients, his social ambitions. Holidays, cooking for 20 to 40 people. Weekends, cleaning while he played golf. Evenings, listening to his stories about work while planning the next day's meals. Each year, expectations grew. Menus became fancier, decorations grander, guest lists longer. I was a chef, a maid, an event planner, without pay. Marcus saw my effort as duty, never gratitude, just next time, remember to. Lately, Marcus had been working late, disappearing on business trips, whispering on the phone. When I asked, he said I was paranoid. But this Thanksgiving night, after 12 hours in the kitchen, after hearing him boast that I was born to serve, after seeing that pink envelope, something inside me broke. Guests trickled out. I stayed behind, cleaning the battlefield of dirty dishes and leftovers. Lily, 14, quietly scraped plates beside me. Mom, they should be helping you. You don't talk to guests like that, I said automatically. Marcus wandered in, loosening his belt. Good job, Emma. Robert said the turkey was great. He paused. Maybe next year, add 2 more desserts? More variety. After 7 dishes. Marcus, I said slowly, maybe next year everyone can bring something, he snorted. Emma, proper hosting shows our family's capability. This is your job, your role in the family. My job, as if I were a machine built for one function. Maggie Morrison stepped in. Emma, the meal was lovely, but next time, Robert prefers white meat and less salt. My blood pressure's been up. She turned at the door. Oh, Marcus, I almost forgot. I saw your friend Margaret at the club yesterday. Lovely girl. She asked about you. Marcus's face flushed. His eyes darted down. Mother, please don't bring that up. Maggie smiled. Of course, dear. She mentioned you two working late on that real estate project, right? The silence that followed hardened into truth. I remembered the pink envelope, the feminine handwriting, Margaret. I took off my apron, folded it neatly, and placed it on the counter. 12 years I've done my duty, I said quietly. I just cooked my last meal for people who think my work is just a job. I grabbed my purse, opened my phone, and booked a one-way flight to Key West, departure tomorrow morning. Lily, call me later. I'll explain everything. Emma, what are you doing? Marcus's voice rose. Happy Thanksgiving, I said. I'm leaving. And I walked out the door without looking back. The flight lasted 3 hours. For the first time in 12 years, no one needed anything from me. Just silence. I rented a small seaside room, $120 a night, paid from a trust fund Marcus didn't know existed. When I swiped the card, a strange feeling came over me. Freedom. Day 1. I did nothing but walk. Barefoot on the sand, sitting on the rocks, watching gulls cut through sunlight, doing nothing, and realizing that doing nothing could be a miracle. In the afternoon, I sat in a cafe, a $4.50 silent latte. I drank it slowly, without guilt. Then I opened my phone and typed, Divorce Laws, New York. Signs of financial abuse in marriage. The more I read, the clearer it became. What I'd been living under had a name: coercive control, economic abuse, psychological violence. I wasn't a bad wife. I was a victim of a system of abuse engineered by someone who knew exactly how to keep me trapped. Day 2, I signed up for a diving class. The instructor, Maria, taught me how to breathe underwater. Slow breaths. Trust the equipment, trust yourself. When I dipped my head beneath the surface for the first time, saw coral, fish, sunlight shimmering through water, I cried inside my mask, not out of fear, but because I remembered what it felt like to be alive. Day 3, I wandered into a bookstore, bought Escaping Financial Abuse and 3 other titles, $83, an extravagance the old Emma would never allow. But the new Emma, she was worth it. On the flight home, my phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. I've met with my lawyer. If you don't come back immediately, I'll file for divorce and make sure you get nothing. My heart pounded. Fear, but also resolve. I typed back, if you want a divorce, file it. But this time, I won't stay silent. 3 days later, Marcus filed for divorce. He hired Sterling and Partners, the most expensive law firm in Westchester County. Reading the petition felt like reading my own obituary. Neglect of marital duties. Abandonment of the family. Mental instability. According to the prenup, I was entitled to $100,000 total. No alimony, no house, no assets. But Linda later explained that Marcus's attorneys had already filed a motion to freeze the payment until the court determined whether I had violated spousal duties. In other words, even that 100,000 was locked away. Everything else, our home, cars, joint accounts, was under his name. When I checked the only bank account he didn't control, a tiny one I'd kept from my single days. The balance blinked back at me. $12,247. That was all I had to my name. I called Linda Vasquez, an attorney from the local women's center. Mrs. Morrison, she said, the phrase violation of marital duties is vague. Judges often dismiss it. And if your husband cheated, you can challenge the prenup entirely under New York law. But how do I prove it? With documentation, receipts, hotel records, credit card statements, witnesses. Linda connected me to Rebecca Chang, a private investigator who specialized in marital cases, and I reached out to Jessica Park, Marcus's former assistant who'd been fired 6 months ago. Mrs. Morrison, Jessica said, Marcus treated you terribly. And yes, there's another woman, a younger one, Margaret Chen. She came to the office after hours, their dinner bills, hotel stays, all charged to the company account. Margaret Chen, same last name as my mother-in-law. Jessica handed me a thick folder of photocopied receipts and transactions. My hands shook as I opened it. But Marcus struck first. He filed an emergency motion to change child custody. The hearing was a nightmare. Marcus arrived with 3 attorneys, character witnesses, his mother Maggie, his friend Robert, and a colleague. They painted him as the devoted father protecting his daughter from an unstable wife. The judge granted Marcus temporary custody. I could only see Lily twice a week, under supervision. My first loss, my daughter. The studio apartment in Queens, $1,400 a month, felt empty without Lily. An air mattress from Target, a folding table, 1 plastic chair. That was everything. My old personal savings account, the one Marcus didn't know about, showed $247. That was my emergency fund, money I'd tucked away from small freelance projects years ago. Now, it was all I had. Rent, food, subway, basic living. 2 months, maybe less. After that, I'd have to crawl back to Marcus and beg. Never. I sent out 30 resumes, no callbacks. Marcus had blacklisted me from the finance industry. During interviews for entry-level jobs, I faced the same questions. 12-year employment gap, care to explain? Why start over at 38? Rejection after rejection. Then I met with Linda Vasquez again. Emma, she said, I've reviewed your case. We'll take it on contingency. You pay nothing unless we win a settlement. For now, I just need $500 for consultation. It was a lifeline. I paid the $500. That left me with less than $12,000. But Marcus escalated. He filed another emergency motion, this time for full custody. I couldn't afford a lawyer, so I represented myself. I lost. Second loss, my daughter, again. Then came Catherine from the support group. Emma, she said, nobody will hire you. Marcus made sure of that, so don't wait for a job, create one. You have a laptop, you have skills. Start consulting. $200 to register an LLC, a free website template, a new LinkedIn profile, Chen Financial Advisory Services, 1 woman, 1 laptop, 1 fragile hope. The first 3 months were hell. I lived on rice and eggs, no eating out, no luxuries, an air mattress in an empty studio, a 1 hour subway ride to every $15 networking event I could find. My first client, Patricia, divorced after 28 years, paid me $2,000 for a full financial plan. I worked 80 hours on her case. It averaged $25 an hour, less than minimum wage, but it was income. And Patricia referred 2 friends. Word began to spread. Attorney Sarah sent referrals. My blog post about financial abuse in marriage went viral in online divorce groups. Suddenly, consultation requests started flooding in. I worked 16-hour days, from Starbucks Wi-Fi, from the library, from home. I hired Maria, a recent graduate eager to learn, $800 a month part-time. Marcus retaliated again, posting fake negative reviews. Some clients canceled. Linda sent a cease and desist letter. I rebuilt slowly. By April, my income reached 2,800. I lived on instant ramen and avoided checking my bank balance. By May, a breakthrough. 9,002 won in 1 month. My first profit. By September, 9 months after leaving, 25 clients, $28,000 monthly revenue, $15,000 profit bank balance from $12,000, $60,000, not from inheritance, not from luck, but because I earned every single dollar. Supervised visit with Lily. Mom, you look different, stronger. Dad says you need him, but you're thriving without him. I held her hands. Sweetheart, I don't need anyone to save me. I learned to save myself, and soon, when we're together again, I'll teach you the same. So when Rebecca called with her breakthrough about Dr. David Chen and Margaret Chen, I didn't react out of desperation anymore. I reacted from a position of strength. Linda noticed it too. Emma, she said, 9 months ago you came in broken, terrified, asking for a payment plan. Now you walk in like a businesswoman, successful in your own right. I smiled. I stopped waiting to be saved. I saved myself. And now I'm ready to fight Marcus, not as a victim, but as an equal. Rebecca called. Emma, we have a breakthrough. Margaret Chen isn't just the mistress. She's your husband's business partner in a fraudulent operation. They've been buying properties, hiding profits from the IRS. Rebecca spread the documents across the table. LLC name, MedTech Ventures. Registered solely under Margaret Chen, entirely funded by transfers from Morrison Healthcare. Total, $1.6 million over 3 years. The pink envelope you saw on Thanksgiving? It was the deed for a condo at 785 Park Avenue, $850,000 owner, Margaret Chen. But why is everything under her name? Marcus isn't listed on the deed or the mortgage. Is he stupid? I asked. Rebecca shook her head. Marcus is many things, but not stupid. Something's missing. A few days later, an anonymous email arrived. You deserve to know the truth about your husband and my wife. The sender, Dr. David Chen, Margaret's husband. We met at Linda's office. David carried a box of files. Mrs. Morrison, he said quietly, Marcus didn't just have an affair with my wife. He set her up. He spread out the documents. LLC, sole member, Margaret, mortgage, sole signer, Margaret. All Medicare billing paperwork, Margaret's signature. Marcus's name appears nowhere. My wife said Marcus told her, it's better for taxes if you sign everything. We're partners. But when the fraud collapses, the liability is hers. Marcus walks away clean. He's already cut her off, stopped payments. She's facing foreclosure and federal charges. When she begged for help, he told her, wait, you signed, your problem. Linda looked at me. If Margaret flips, she can bring him down, but we'll have to help her avoid prison, which means the woman who slept with my husband gets immunity, I finished. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, torn between anger and justice. By morning, my mind was clear. I'm not doing this for Margaret, I told Linda. I'm doing it for every other woman Marcus has manipulated. If we don't stop him, he'll destroy someone else next. A sudden phone call from Maggie Morrison. Maggie, crying. Emma, can you talk? What do you want, Mom? Another lie? Marcus abandoned me. I need surgery, 80K. Marcus refused. He said no money. But he just spent 850K for that woman. I covered for him for years, and when I needed help, he left his own mother. I'm sorry, Emma. A meeting arranged by Linda, Emma plus Margaret Chen with her lawyer, plus Maggie Morrison. two Margarets, one room, both betrayed by the same man. Margaret Chen. Mrs. Morrison, I'm sorry. Marcus told me you were cold, that the marriage was over. I thought we were building a future. Now I realize he used me. When the scheme collapsed, he structured everything so I'd take the fall. Maggie. Emma, I lied for Marcus. I thought I was protecting my son, but when I needed him for surgery, he turned his back. He chose money over his own mother. Emma. Two women with the same name. He chose a mistress with the same name as his mother for a perfect alibi. When I saw Margaret on his phone, he claimed it was for you, and you confirmed the lie. Linda. We'll need both of you to cooperate. Margaret Chen, testify about the fraud. Maggie Morrison, testify about manipulation and abandonment. Emma's decision. I don't forgive, but I see it clearly now. Marcus manipulated everyone. He used his mother to control me, used Ms. Chen as a pawn. If it takes both of you to bring him down, I'm ready. Marcus retaliates, hires a PR firm to spread unstable wife rumors to the media. He files for a restraining order. Second loss, her public reputation. Mothers at school avoid her. Marcus said you're mentally unstable. Social isolation follows, but her business stays steady. Jessica reveals a recording of Marcus admitting to fraud, legal under New York's one-party consent. The FBI uses the recording to obtain a search warrant for Morrison Healthcare's offices. Assistant U.S. Attorney Sarah Mitchell stood beside FBI agent James Rodriguez. This is a RICO case, she said firmly. A criminal enterprise. Marcus Morrison, Margaret Chen, and Maggie Morrison all face federal charges. Dr. David Chen filed for divorce from Margaret and submitted a whistleblower complaint to the IRS. Panicked, Margaret hired her own attorney and negotiated a deal. Testify against Marcus in exchange for immunity. December 15th, trial day, Westchester County Courthouse. As Marcus arrived for the divorce hearing, FBI agents served him with a federal summons at the courthouse door. Within hours, every major network carried the headline. Healthcare CEO charged with Medicare fraud, tax evasion, and money laundering. The courthouse steps overflowed with reporters and cameras. Marcus, once the image of control, now looked hollow, hair disheveled, suit wrinkled, hands trembling. Linda's opening statement. Your Honor, on Thanksgiving night, Emma saw a pink envelope. The name on it, Margaret. Her husband claimed it was for his mother, and Mrs. Morrison confirmed that lie. But that envelope wasn't for his mother. It was the deed to a condo for his mistress, also named Margaret. Marcus deliberately chose a woman who shared his mother's name, creating the perfect cover. When Emma saw Margaret, she thought, mother. Marcus planned every detail. Margaret Chen's testimony. Marcus once told me he loved irony, dating a woman who shared his mother's name. He said if his wife ever saw the name, it would give him plausible deniability. He made me sign every document, every wire transfer, and when the scheme collapsed, he told me, your name, your problem. Lily's testimony. Your Honor, I want to tell the truth about my father. When I was little, I thought he was perfect, successful, loving, a hero. But over the years, I noticed things. How he spoke to Mom like a servant, not a partner. How he used Grandma for appearances, then ignored her calls. How he brought business associate Margaret to my school events. How he coached me on what to say if Mom ever asked questions. One night, I overheard him on the phone with Margaret. He said, "Don't worry, baby, my wife suspects nothing. My mother covers for us. Everything's under control." That's when I realized my father sees people like chess pieces. Mom was the pawn he kept at home. Grandma was the pawn he displayed in public. Margaret was the pawn he positioned to take the fall. And me? I was the pawn he used to control Mom. When Mom walked out on Thanksgiving night, Dad said, Your mother's crazy. She abandoned us. But I saw the truth. She didn't abandon us. She finally stopped being his pawn, and that terrified him. The courtroom fell silent. Some jurors wiped away tears. Marcus's defense collapsed. His attorneys had no explanation for his own mother testifying against him, refusing to pay her medical bills while spending $850,000 on a mistress. The coincidence that the mistress shared his mother's name and the recorded confession showing he set up Margaret Chen to take the blame. A recording was played in court. Marcus's voice, cold and flat, abandoning Margaret as she begged for help. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Maggie Morrison's testimony. On Thanksgiving, I lied to Emma. I confirmed the apartment was for me, though I knew it wasn't. Later, when I needed $80,000 for surgery, Marcus refused. He said, I have my own family now. My son chose money over his own mother. He's not just cruel, he's a monster. Emma's testimony. For 12 years, I believed marriage meant sacrifice. I gave up my career, my independence, my friends, because I thought that was love. But love should never require you to disappear. Lily's testimony. Your Honor, I want to tell the truth about my father. When I was little, I thought he was perfect, successful, loving, a hero. But over the years, I noticed things. How he spoke to Mom like a servant, not a partner. How he used Grandma for appearances, then ignored her calls. How he brought business associate Margaret to my school events. How he coached me on what to say if Mom ever asked questions. One night, I overheard him on the phone with Margaret. He said, Don't worry, baby. My wife suspects nothing. My mother covers for us. Everything's under control. That's when I realized my father sees people like chess pieces. Mom was the pawn he kept at home. Grandma was the pawn he displayed in public. Margaret was the pawn he positioned to take the fall. And me, I was the pawn he used to control Mom. When Mom walked out on Thanksgiving night, Dad said, Your mother's crazy. She abandoned us. But I saw the truth. She didn't abandon us. She finally stopped being his pawn, and that terrified him. The courtroom fell silent. Some jurors wiped away tears. Marcus's defense collapsed. His attorneys had no explanation for his own mother testifying against him, refusing to pay her medical bills while spending $850,000 on a mistress. The coincidence that the mistress shared his mother's name and the recorded confession showing he set up Margaret Chen to take the blame. Judge's verdict. Mr. Morrison, you manipulated your mother into lying for you, then abandoned her when she needed care. You chose a mistress partly because she shared your mother's name, so you could build a cover story. You created a criminal enterprise with your mistress as the designated scapegoat. You betrayed every person who ever trusted you. This court finds you not only guilty of fraud and conspiracy, but guilty of weaponizing family itself for personal gain. A federal court criminal sentence Marcus Morrison 18 months in federal prison for tax evasion, over $600,000 in fines and penalties, $1.9 million restitution to defrauded clients, permanent revocation of his healthcare license. Morrison, healthcare dissolved under court supervision, banned from serving as an officer or director of any public company. Maggie Morrison, 6 months of house arrest, $120,000 fine. Must cooperate as a witness in future investigations. Margaret Chen, probation plus 500 hours of community service as part of her immunity deal, required to testify in any related federal or civil cases. Court. Divorce judgment. Emma Morrison receives full ownership of the family home and all its contents. 1 million in marital assets, including recovered hidden funds. Full custody of Lily, $9,000 per month in spousal support for 10 years. Marcus, to pay all of Emma's legal fees. Over $220,000 Marcus Morrison loses. All unsupervised visitation rights. Only 2 hours a week under supervision. No decision-making authority over Lily's education, health, or religion. Prenup, declared void due to fraud and adultery, assets divided under equitable distribution. As the judge read the ruling, my knees nearly gave out. A year ago, I'd had nothing. $12,000, an air mattress, and a secondhand laptop. Now I had justice, not as mercy, but as something earned. Lily's arms wrapped around me in the courthouse hallway. Mom, I'm sorry for ever doubting you, she whispered. Dad made me think you were wrong, but you weren't. You weren't just protecting yourself, you were protecting me. I hugged her tight. We're safe now, sweetheart. We're free. Outside, cameras flashed. Journalists shouted my name. I didn't stop to speak. For the first time, I didn't owe anyone an explanation. Justice had already spoken. 1 year after the Thanksgiving night I walked out, I stood in a kitchen again. But not the cold marble one where I used to vanish. This was my kitchen, small, warm, glowing with light from the house I bought with the settlement that once felt impossible to dream of. This time, there were only 8 people at the table. Lily beside me, helping toss salad, Linda opening wine, Rebecca laughing with David as they carved roasted chicken, Jessica and Maria setting the table while Catherine told a story that had Sarah doubled over with laughter. No 20-pound turkey, no chandeliers, just chicken, garlic mashed potatoes, green salad, and a store-bought pumpkin pie. Lily looked around, smiling. Mom, this feels more like family than those 40-person dinners ever did. I pulled her close. That's because this is family, sweetheart. Not by blood, but by choice. The people who stay when you need them. A lot had changed in a year. My business now had a small downtown office, nothing fancy, but professional. 45 clients. Maria was no longer my assistant, but my partner. We'd hired 2 junior advisors. But what mattered most wasn't the numbers. It was waking up every morning without fear, without asking permission to buy a coffee, without feeling invisible in my own life. That tiny support group that once saved me had grown into a nonprofit, the Women's Financial Independence Network. Linda offered free legal consultations. Rebecca trained women how to collect evidence safely. Catherine, Marcus's first ex-wife, flew in from Portland every month to share her story, helping others recognize abuse before it was too late. In the first year alone, we helped over 200 women. Some escaped toxic marriages, some started their own businesses, some simply learned to trust themselves again. Lily changed too. She wasn't the anxious child caught between warring parents anymore. She thrived at school, made friends, dreamed of becoming a lawyer. One evening, she said, Mom, I used to think strength meant never crying, never asking for help. But watching you, I learned that real strength is knowing when to ask for help and when to stand up and fight. Those words meant more to me than any settlement check. And then came Thomas. Catherine introduced us, a high school history teacher, widowed 3 years, raising 2 boys alone. We met at a coffee shop and talked for 2 hours about books, kids, and rebuilding life after loss. No drama, no manipulation, just 2 people who'd both been broken and were learning to trust again. The first night I cooked dinner for him. Simple pasta, salad, garlic bread. Thomas automatically stood up to wash the dishes. Then he said, Emma, thank you for this. Next time, let me cook. You deserve to be taken care of too. Simple words, but they hit me like thunder. 12 years of marriage, and I'd never heard a genuine thank you. Now, from this gentle man, I finally did. He noticed my tears. Did I say something wrong? No, I smiled. You said everything right. We didn't rush. Both of us had scars. But there was something different about Thomas. He asked about my day and truly listened. He celebrated my wins, never made me feel small. When Lily met him, they bonded instantly over history, her favorite subject. Later, she whispered, Mom, Thomas is nice. He's different from Dad. He treats you like an equal. I smiled. That's because we are equals. That's what a healthy partnership looks like. That night, after everyone left, Lily and I washed dishes together in our little kitchen. Mom, she asked, do you regret your years with Dad? I thought for a moment. Sweetheart, I regret how long it took me to realize my worth, but I don't regret you. I don't regret the lessons. And I don't regret the strength I found. Sometimes we have to walk through darkness to appreciate the light. Sometimes we have to break to learn how strong we are when we rebuild. She smiled. And where are you now, Mom? I looked around at the cozy kitchen filled with laughter and love, at my daughter, confident and kind, learning she deserves respect, at the life I rebuilt with my own two hands. I'm in the light, sweetheart, and this time I'm never leaving. My phone buzzed. A text from Linda. Emma, new case. A woman saw your speech online. She's ready to fight. She needs help. Are you available? I looked at Lily. She nodded and smiled. Go help her, Mom. I typed back. Always. Give her my number. We'll fight together. Because this isn't just my story anymore. It's every woman's story. Every woman who's ever felt invisible, taken for granted, or forgotten her own worth. Together, we're rewriting the ending, one woman at a time. 3 years after the night I walked out, Thanksgiving came again. No marble counters, no 40 guests, no man barking orders from the living room. Just me, Lily, Thomas, and a few close friends who had become our chosen family. The turkey was smaller. The laughter was louder. Lily set the table while Thomas basted the bird, pretending to take my instructions like a sous chef. He winked. Yes, Chef Chen. I laughed. Promotion suits you. The kitchen, once a place of exhaustion, now felt alive, warm with music, garlic, and cinnamon. As we sat down to eat, I raised my glass. To freedom, to honesty, and to everyone who once thought they were alone. May you find your voice, your strength, and your peace. Everyone clinked glasses. For a long moment, I looked around. Lily's laughter, Thomas's quiet smile, the sound of our friends talking softly. It was quiet, simple, and perfect. Later that night, after the dishes were done, I stood alone at the sink. Same motion as before, washing plates. But this time, every dish felt like proof I wasn't serving. I was choosing. Outside, snow began to fall, soft and silent. Lily came up behind me, hugging my waist. Happy Thanksgiving, Mom. I smiled. It finally is. That night, before bed, I wrote a line in my journal. The last Thanksgiving wasn't my ending. It was my beginning. And every woman who chooses herself after years of silence becomes part of that beginning. 5 years later, sunlight spilled through the wide windows of a townhouse in Brooklyn. The smell of fresh bread and rosemary filled the air. A long oak table stretched across the room, covered not with luxury silverware, but mismatched plates, paper napkins, and handwritten place cards. Around it sat 12 women, lawyers, single mothers, college students, survivors. It was the annual dinner of the Women's Financial Independence Network. No tuxedos, no hierarchy, just laughter, voices, and stories that once were whispered, now spoken freely. Maria clinked her glass. To Emma, who turned a kitchen into a revolution. The room erupted in cheers. I laughed, cheeks warm. Don't make me cry before dessert, I said. Lily, now a university freshman studying social work, stood beside me, holding a folder. Mom doesn't know this, she said, but tomorrow she's speaking at Columbia's Center for Gender Policy. They're giving her the Courage and Advocacy Award. Gasps, applause, laughter. I blinked hard. Lily, you didn't. She grinned. I did, because you taught me that courage isn't never being afraid. It's being afraid and doing it anyway. I hugged her, tears spilling. I love you, baby. I know, she said softly. Now go give the world another speech. Later that night, After everyone left, I stayed behind at the empty table. The candles had burned low, the air warm with the scent of bread and wine. I placed my hand on the wood, solid, scarred, real. This table had once symbolized servitude. Now it was a circle of strength. Not where women served, but where they were seen. I whispered, "Happy Thanksgiving," to all of us. Outside, the city lights shimmered. Inside, the quiet was golden. I walked into the kitchen, poured the last glass of wine, and looked out at the skyline, proof that light always returns, even after the darkest night. And somewhere deep inside, I felt that steady rhythm again. I was once the invisible wife. Now I am the voice that refuses to be silenced. And this table, this life, this light belongs to all of us.